Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. Just going to give it a couple minutes for people to find their way in. Hi, everybody. Thanks for being with us tonight. We really appreciate your time. I know it's a busy time. First of all, if you are not a manager or coach of a U11, a U9 or a U10 team, you're in the wrong webinar. That said, initially, when we had set this out to our clubs, we did include the wrong link that we corrected pretty quickly, but some of you may have ended up with the wrong link. If that's the case, the U11 to 14 TCSL webinar is at 7 p.m. So you're encouraged to drop this one and join that one. If you are unable to, you're welcome to stay. Much of the content is the same, but there are some subtle differences as well. Couple ground rules. Q&A is active, so you're welcome to ask any questions that you'd like, and we'll get to as many as we can. We are recording this. We will share it. Don't feel like you have to take a bunch of notes. And the purpose of this is just to ensure that everybody's on the same page relative to schedules that'll be out tomorrow, as well as some other pieces and happenings in our league. Okay, again, thanks for being here. Know it's a busy time. We appreciate it. The agenda. Above all, I want to make sure that we pass along important information and that you're comfortable heading into tomorrow and heading into the season. Just really quickly about TCSL. Internally, we underwent a reevaluation of our mission and vision and values about 6 months ago. And while they're definitely meant for the public to understand who we are and what we do, it's equally as important that we use these to ultimately measure ourselves as we're always trying to improve in everything that we do. We hope that this season is better than our last, et cetera. Ultimately, we hope to raise the level of the sport here in every facet of it. So whether that's leagues, cups, administration, the refereeing part of the game, parent engagement, you name it. We're truly hoping to raise the level of the sport in the Twin Cities and we're really excited to have that opportunity each and every day. And like I mentioned a few times, we're grateful that you were able to spend the evening with us. I do want to do a real quick poll, so it'll help us frame the discussion. Really simply, have you been a coach or manager before this season? About 60-40 in favor of no. So we have quite a few new people, but also those that have been involved before. Thanks for participating in that. And then our values. So collaboration, sportsmanship, competition, and excellence. Again, hoping to raise the level of the game here, and having values that we can actually measure ourselves against, is important. Couple things specific to the U9 and U10 game. Obviously, culture, sportsmanship, and respect are very important at all levels and ages of the game. However, we would argue that at these age groups, it's more important than possibly others. These players are very young. We want them to continue playing the game and coming back the following year. And we believe that if the game day experience is a positive one for them, when it comes to culture, sportsmanship, and respect, that they will return the following year. Coaches, we ask that you own the environment and culture of the match. For example, we think it would be a good practice to meet and greet the referee, make them feel welcome. Oftentimes, the referee in a U10 or U9 game is very young, possibly inexperienced, likely inexperienced. And it's an opportunity to cover rules and, quite frankly, misconceptions that can easily be covered in a brief meet and greet in terms of a build out line. For those of you that don't know what that is, I'll go into it in just 1 second. The fact that punting is not permitted, the fact that all kicks are indirect, those types of things, it sets the standard and it sets really the culture for the match by having that initial discussion. So we encourage, especially U9 and U10 coaches, make it a habit to meet the referee, greet the referee, thank them for coming, and just get on the same page about some of those items I mentioned. Scores are not reported, and therefore they're not public. However, we do have referees record them because we use them for internal purposes to ensure that our leagues are balanced. We don't want imbalanced games, we want balanced games, and part of our league formation process is actually evaluating them. In the case of there not being a referee at U9 and U10, play the game. It can be facilitated by coaches. Again, scores aren't reported. Our strong preference and really mandate is that if there's not a referee available for U9 and U10 game, the game should be played anyways. I referenced the build outline. I just want to cover that really quickly. So, 5 or 6 years ago, U.S. Soccer came out with mandates relative to small-sided games. One component of that was the build outline. So on some of your fields, this will be actually marked with a line. On most fields, it will be marked via cones. And what it is when the goalkeeper is in possession of the ball or there's a goal kick, that the defending team must retreat behind that line. So they can't pressure in front of that line. They have to be behind that line until the ball is distributed or the goal kick is taken. Okay, so especially U9 is going to be something new. We encourage you to, cover this with your players, help out in real time if there's some confusion, defenders aren't retreating, what have you, to just help out and go about it that way. Okay. U.S. Club Soccer adult requirements. So for those of you that have been a coach or manager before, you know about this. For those of you that are new, hopefully your club has began the process of ensuring that you're eligible. This applies to both coaches and managers. They must have completed U.S. Club Soccer background check, safe sport, as well as completing an adverse eligibility review. This is only done one time. Your pass is good for 2 years. But in order to be a coach or a manager, you must have completed these tasks. And again, it's not limited to coaches. All managers must complete as well. I'll pause there. Are there any questions? Feel free to put them in the Q&A. Okay, I'll move on. TCSL scheduling. So one thing we're very proud of is our ability to build a optimized schedule. For example, it's very common for coaches to coach multiple teams. Secondly, or related to that, it's not favorable, for example, to have a coach that is home on one day and away on the same day. It's very likely that they won't be able to coach. Home and home on the same day is more favorable. So taking into account those things. We take into account how many matches a club can host on a specific day. We take into account blackout days. We take into account that we want games spaced across the full spectrum of the season rather than being done in the first 2 weekends, for example. And then ultimately we create an optimized schedule, taking all of those constraints into account via an algorithm, and our partner GotSport helps us do that. This is something that we've done now, I believe 3 or 4 seasons, and it's worked really well. I'll jump into the Q&A because there's a couple questions. How long does the background check take? Am I correct? We need that clearance to see the roster and schedule, etc. Don, can you help me with this one?
Yep. So how long the background check takes depends on the number of municipalities that need to be cleared. So if you have lived in 5 places in the last 7 years, each of those municipalities needs to be cleared on this background check. That's going to take longer than just clearing here in Minneapolis or St. Paul. An international background check can take weeks to, if not months, because that's dependent on a response from a foreign country. And that's a little bit out of everyone's control. You don't need to clear in order to see a roster or schedule. You need to be assigned to your team by your club administrator. So if you're having trouble seeing your roster, you can't see your schedule right now, but if you can't find your team in your GotSport profile, please contact your club administrator. Matt, I did also type out an answer about SafeSport being a yearly requirement. Yes, SafeSport is a yearly requirement.
Yep, good clarification. Thank you. Had another question. What does it mean, kicks are indirect? So in soccer, a free kick can either be direct or it can be indirect. Direct means that the individual taking the kick can score directly from that kick. Indirect means that there have to be 2 touches before a goal can be scored. In this environment, in U9 and U10, all kicks are indirect, meaning that 2 players will have had to touch the ball prior to a goal being scored. Where do we find information to do the background check? Who should we connect with? I'm a team manager. That would be a question for your club administrator. So if you haven't gotten information yet about completing a background check, that should be directed to your club registrar or club administrator. So background check focused on felonies / predatory practices, or are all misdemeanors, et cetera, a part of it? I don't know, is my honest answer. I do know that US Club Soccer subscribes to the US Olympic Committee standard. So I'm not exactly sure I'd say felonies and predatory practices are for sure included in that. I don't know about all misdemeanors being a part of it, but I know that the standard that is used by the US Olympic Committee. How do you correct a background check when it shows international and should not be? I'd invite you to send an email. I'm going to volunteer you, Dawn, to Dawn, DAWN, at tcslsoccer.com so that we can help facilitate a resolution. Dawn, can you take a look at Chad's question regarding Safe Sport?
Yep. So the deal is the system will only automatically sync with the one sport you have designated in your profile. So if you're affiliated with the US Soccer Federation, you're going through GotSport, take your Safe Sport, you can sync the soccer requirement with US Club that way. If you have US Swimming designated in your Safe Sport account, that won't sync with US Club Soccer. If it is the same core training refresher 1 or refresher 2, you could try entering the certificate number and syncing it that way, or you can upload your certificate for review directly by US Club staff.
Thanks, Dawn. I think I got all questions. All right. So schedule release. We're excited to release fall schedules tomorrow. We expect this to be sometime early to middle of the afternoon. So if it's 11 a.m. tomorrow and you're wondering where they are, they're still going to come. There won't be any delay. I rarely promise. I promise we will get schedules out tomorrow, pending some catastrophic GotSport issue, which I don't anticipate, but we are committed to delivering schedules to you all tomorrow. Now, there are two pieces of information I want to share. There's really two, let me rephrase. There are two places that you'll be able to access your schedule, both serving slightly different purposes. So the first is your GotSport account. As a coach or manager, you will be affiliated with your team. And from there, you will be able to communicate with opponents. You'll be able to build your roster. All tasks associated with managing your team are done within GotSport. If you have trouble logging in, contact your club administrator. They will be able to help. And then the second area where the schedule will be posted is on the public website. And that's tcslsoccer.com/leagues. During the reschedule period, I'll get to that in a second, you'll most often be in GotSport communicating with opponents and submitting reschedules and what have you. Okay. Ooh, what just happened? So in terms of the actual schedule, here are some pieces in terms of what to expect. So the first play night or play day is September 8th. It's a Friday. And that runs through the last play date, which will be October 8th. Matches will be either on Friday night, Saturday, or Sunday. In a vast majority of cases, we build in the algorithm that teams won't play on Friday more than one time. Okay. You might notice that September 8th to October 8th encompasses 5 weekends. In terms of tournaments, there are fall tournaments that are out there. We strongly suggest that teams limit themselves to one tournament. If you play in 2 or 3 tournaments, your ability to fulfill a league schedule becomes difficult. We aren't anti-tournament. We aren't saying that this is a mandate. We're just saying that with 5 weekends and tying up 2 of them, 6 play dates, will make fulfilling a league schedule difficult and the rescheduling process frustrating. Okay. So again, just word of caution, not anti-tournament, just looking at a calendar, it becomes apparent that trying to fit in too much is challenging. So you're going to get your schedule tomorrow, and we have this documented in terms of how to do these specific tasks, but just want to go through in general the process for submitting a reschedule or going through the reschedule process. So all communication is actually going to happen in Gotsport between opponents. Once there's alignment on a few date options, the home team then secures facility and confirms that referees are available. The home team then submits the request to TCSL and Gotsport. The away team accepts that request in Gotsport, and then we will approve on our side, and you will receive a notification that it's been moved on the schedule. The deadline to submit reschedules for the fall season is September 1st. So what this means is that immediately upon receiving your schedule, you should begin the process, if you need to, reaching out to opponents and beginning the process. We highly recommend not waiting until the day before the deadline, because there are several steps that need to happen. And by waiting, you jeopardize the ability to get it done by the deadline. Question. We're planning to participate in the Blaine tournament October 7th through the 8th. Does this mean we need to reschedule our October 8th game, assuming everyone plays October 8th? You might not play October 8th that weekend. Not everyone will play every weekend, depending on blackout dates and some of the other constraints in the system. But yes, if you end up with a game, then that would be a reason why you would reschedule off of that weekend. Correct. A couple tips about rescheduling. Use the Gotsport chat feature so all conversations are documented. Begin early, like I mentioned. Respond promptly. There's nothing more frustrating than trying to be on the ball and proactive and then having somebody on the other end that's not responding. So if you get a message from somebody, we would expect that you respond promptly. And then just a best practice, if there's, 2 coaches and a manager on the team, identify the individual who will ultimately monitor and respond to requests so that there's some delegation that happens within your group. Okay. I'll pause there. Questions about the schedule, reschedule process, or anything of the like? In terms of how to do these things, you will receive in the email tomorrow a link to some help articles or a help article that walks you through exactly what to do from A to Z. questions here. Do you get notified via email if you get a message in Gotsport, or do you need to be logging in and checking regularly? Great question. And it's actually the second question that popped up. Don, can you confirm that?
Yes. You should, if you're assigned to your team by your club administrator and you can see your team, if you go into your Gotsport profile and you see your team in there, you should receive automatic notifications. That said, some emails servers are better at snagging email messages that come from an automated system like that. So you might want to be checking your spam and your junk folders as well during this time, but you can also just, once you have access to your schedule, if you scan down that schedule, it's very clear which of those games you might have received a message for, and that's where you can access that message.
Good questions. Anything else related to schedules before I move on? What happens if a game needs to be rescheduled due to weather? Does it have to happen before October 8th? In general, yes. Our festival is October 14th through the 16th. Excuse me, October 15th and 16th. And many teams will be playing in there. So it might be difficult if you're not to reschedule with them. But in general, October 8th is the last play date in the fall season. Can games be rescheduled for weekdays if there are no available weekend days to get the game in? Sorry if you already addressed this. Nope, I haven't. It's a good question. Yes, we have no problem with a game being played on a date that works for both teams, even if it's during the week. Any further questions on schedules? Okay, so in terms of the day of your match, the first thing is that you're going to set your match day roster in Gotsport and print a copy to deliver to the referee. In addition, each coach that's on the sideline needs to present their credential, which indicates that they've passed and gone through the steps required that we covered before. Present that to the referee. And then last, we ask that if referees have not reported scores within 24 hours, that you help us do that. And we have documentation for how that works and what have you that I won't go through now, but know that we do appreciate that. We also follow up on Mondays with referee assigners to get as many scores reported as we can. Some do it, some don't, and we hound people, we hound assigners, but we are grateful for any assistance in this regard. Again, they're not public at these ages, but we do like to collect them to ensure that we do everything we can to ensure balanced leagues moving forward. A couple of good questions here. How do we figure out if the field is available on a rescheduled date? So each club's going to have their own internal process for how reschedules happen. So for example, a club might require that you need to come up with 3 dates or 3 options for dates and times that work, so that the field assigner has an opportunity to, if the first option doesn't work, go to the second one, for example. So that would be a question for your club, and the club should be setting out expectations and a process for how you as the manager or coach would go about soliciting field availability. Is the adult pass how coaches or managers present their credentials to the ref? Yes. So, just go ahead real quick. So the credential looks something like this on the left-hand side. That is what you should have in your wallet or should be carrying with you. It's no different than a driver's license, really, except this is your ticket to being able to coach. Nothing further is needed beyond that, to your question. How would we know if a score wasn't recorded since they are not public? Great question. Dawn, can you help me with this one? Because in GotSport, even for the younger, in their own team profile, they see scores. Is that correct?
Yes, when you look at your schedule, I believe the scores will show there. But we do also, as a league, send requests periodically for all matches that are missing scores.
Thank you. It looks like there's a $99 activation fee for the GotSport app. Is that correct? Believe you're talking about the GotSport team app. That is not mandatory for what we're talking about. That's an add-on that if you want to be able to communicate with your team members and this and that, it's not necessary and it's not tied to what we're covering here. Regarding the photo roster requirement, are all players required, to submit a photo to TeamSnap? So TeamSnap's the app that I'm assuming you use internally at your club. Our requirements are not tied to TeamSnap unless your club has indicated that that's how they're going to collect a photo in order for the club to put it in GotSport when they register the players. You would have to check with your club. What can we tell parents about checks that will be collected? Nicole, I don't know what you're referring to, candidly, so I'm going to skip that unless you want to provide more clarification by asking another question. I may have missed this, but do the managers need to have an adult pass for game days? Good question, Jen. It's a good best practice. So it is very unlikely, and I go back to the culture sportsmanship slide. If a coach is dismissed or shown a red card from a game and there's no other available adult, then the manager would need to step in to fill that void. And if there's no other person besides that one coach to fill that void, if somebody doesn't have a pass that's there, the game is then terminated. Now it's U9 and U10. My hope is that that's not a reality, but to answer your question, it's a good best practice to just have your pass with you. Will the fields be booked with the games tomorrow? Nikki, I'm not sure what you're referring to. Feel free to ask another or rephrase it if you'd like. How does it work if a substitute is coaching? For example, we had a parent coach once when the coach couldn't make it. That parent needs to have a pass. Anybody that's coaching at any time needs to have a credential. For summer, we had to write a $325 check and it was cashed unless each family volunteered. That would be something you'd have to address with your club. We don't collect any sort of checks or bonds at the league level. That would be something that you would need to address with your club. All players are required to submit a photo to GotSport? Yes. Now, the club may have a process for getting a photo from you in order to upload to GotSport, as opposed to the parent doing it directly. there's various paths that can be taken. That would be a better question for your club about how they get photos into the system. Where do we find / get our passes for coaching? It'll be available in Gotsport through your access once all the requirements are complete. When the game schedule comes out tomorrow, our field's already booked with the game. Ah, I see what you mean, Nikki. Yes. So the schedule you get tomorrow will have date, time, location, opponents. So it'll have all details. What formation are we supposed to play? How should we handle players' position preferences? For example, someone likes goalie or someone likes forward. Great question. That would be a question for your director of coaching. Got through all the questions. I'm going to keep plowing ahead here. So this is just a screenshot of what Gotsport's going to look like. Again, when you get an email tomorrow, we're going to include links to relevant articles about how to manage these tasks. On the right-hand side, you can see this is an example of a team chat, 2 teams coordinating a reschedule. And then on the left-hand side is the schedule view. Oops. And you can see how there's chat bubbles that illustrate that there's an active chat going on. On the right-hand side is an example of a photo roster. And then on the left-hand side is an example of actually setting that roster within Gotsport. Cover the coach pass and the roster bit. Another thing related to game day. So we as a club, we as a league publish what each club is going to wear when they are home. What this allows is for you as the away team to plan the appropriate kit to wear. Now, it's always best practice to bring both kits, but this at least allows you to have some forethought and planning about what the opponent's going to wear. Now, what I will say is that sometimes in the fall, based on manufacturers and uniform delays and what have you, there might be some small deviations from this, and we expect that our clubs will work through that. This graphic will be updated when we send out schedules tomorrow. There's a few modifications. This is from the last year. Where do we find the coach manager pass in Gotsport is a question that came in. That'll be in Gotsport as you reference, and it will be available once you've completed all tasks. Dawn, can you help me fill in the blanks?
Yep. To some extent, this varies by club. A lot of clubs print out coach and manager passes in bulk and then just give you a coach and manager pass. But they're also available at the team level that you can access as a coach or manager through your full team pass PDF. So you can access them that way yourself, but your club can also generate them individually to either email out to you guys to print, or sometimes they print them out and laminate them and give them to you.
Thanks. One piece that we're really proud of is the fact that, and Don was instrumental in this, is the rollout of a new TCSL support center. And ultimately our goal was to provide how-to articles and relevant information about things that are frequently asked questions and things that come our way, trying to get it in front of people in a more strategic way. It's support.tcslsoccer.com. This will be linked in our communication tomorrow for sure, so don't feel like you have to memorize that. But as a team manager or team coach, the team management area of this new support center has all the resources that you would need, or very close to all the resources that you might need. So become familiar with this. And if you have any feedback on it, we always want such feedback, but we think it's a good positive step forward to try to provide as much support as we possibly can to coaches, managers, and everybody else. You'll notice that on every page of the TCSL website, there's this widget that says help. You can search, for example, report a score, and then it's going to give you relevant articles about how to do such thing. And then if you still aren't getting the answer that you need, then there's this get in touch button that helps you contact our office. And generally speaking, we get back to people pretty quick. So if you're not finding what you need, feel free to leverage that. But again, trying to be more thoughtful about our support resources, and we're proud of sort of this next evolution. I'll pause there. Any questions? So postseason. So as I mentioned, October 8th is the last date of league play. And then the fall festival will follow the following weekend. October 14th, the boys will play. October 15th, the girls will play. Everybody plays 3 matches in one day, 2 by 20-minute halves. The goal is to match up teams not seen in the league. And again, this is where those scores, even though they're not public, we want to know, so that, if a team, for example, is 6-0 and didn't give up a goal all season, well, we want to pair them with more appropriate competition. And we use this event to build schedules so that you can see teams you didn't see in the league as much as possible, but then B, created a situation where the matches are good and balanced, and we need that scoring data to be able to do that. So the boys will play October 14th, like I said. Girls will play October 15th. Everybody gets medals. It's a really fun jamboree style festival event, food trucks. We've gotten a ton of good feedback about this event in the past. It likely will sell out. We have a limited number of fields. So we encourage you to get your registration as soon as you can. Deadline being September 29th, unless we end up filling sooner. Like I said, finite number of fields. We can't go as late as we do in the summer. So last kickoff has to be probably either 4 or 5 p.m. due to daylight. So there's some of those things that we need to be aware of, which means that we only have so many fields. So if you want to play, we suggest that you get your registration in as soon as possible. Is the $385 the team registration or for each individual? Well, I wish it was for each individual, but it is not. It is a team registration. We've done our best to keep costs down. This is one of the more reasonable from a cost standpoint events, and we think a good amount of value. But yes, team fee. Carlos has a good question. Is it 2 25-minute halves in the league? And the answer is yes. We shorten the halves slightly in the fall festival because they're playing 3 matches in a day. Any other questions on the fall festival? Question is, what is jamboree style? It means that we don't keep score. We focus more on enjoyment and competition and balanced divisions, as opposed to an event that has, group play where you have a standings table and then certain teams advance and that sort of thing. That's what that means. Leah has a question. In addition to the fall festival, are there league playoffs in early October for the top league finishers? So in order for there to be league playoffs, we need to keep score, and we don't for the younger age groups, meaning U9 and U10. What you may be thinking of is our Final Four event, which starts at U11. So once a player becomes a U11 player, we now keep scores, and yes, there are league playoffs at the end of the season. It'll be on the same weekend as this festival, different location. And then lastly, we thought it would be helpful to lay out, because I mentioned a few times, well, that's that's a question for your club, or that's a question for your registrar. Some general buckets, meaning club director of coaching, club administrator, registrar, and then us. Who do you contact for what? So for example, the club director of coaching, your short players, need to find some players that complement your roster. That'd be a question from your DOC. Question about a reschedule and not getting very far, DOC. Field needs, possibly. Team placement, definitely. Club administrator, player registration, for example, players not showing up on the roster, rescheduling, field needs, and then being a go-to resource for anything related to Gotsport. They generally will be your first line of defense when you have a question related to Gotsport. And then in terms of TCSL, questions about the festival, having an issue registering. We're generally the resource that your club director of coaching or club administrator goes to if they're having issues. Coach education, questions or opportunities can come our way. We have a calendar that's more robust than any year prior. We just released our 23-24 coach education calendar for those coaches that want to get out there and learn and be a part of that. We encourage you to. And then sideline issues as well. And we've been very heavily involved with the sideline project, and will continue to be moving forward. And more to follow on that, like I indicate in the slide. And thank you. We appreciate all the time. We appreciate your dedication to the sport. We know how much time it is, and there's plenty of options nowadays in terms of activities. For those of you that are parents, we're grateful that you've decided to have them play soccer, and it's our obligation to ensure that the experience they have is a really positive one, and we take that seriously. I can pause there for any final questions. Mike asked a really good question. Is there still a need for referees? And the answer is most definitely. I went back and forth whether to cover that in this webinar because the certification cycle in Minnesota generally happens after the fall season, leading up to the summer season. So you will see some things from us late fall, mid to late fall, about becoming a referee for the next cycle. And we're hopeful that as many of you as possible will consider that. One thing that is a good sign, we often talk about the negative in this space. We registered and certified more referees in 22-23 than we did in 21-22. That is a really, really good sign. And now we need to continue to certify more and more to surpass this past year, this coming year. And we'll be heavily involved in ensuring that all of you that are interested in participating have the information, and we would certainly welcome your involvement for sure. Will an email or notification be sent out if the fall festival sells out before 9/29? Yeah, we would let you know, like a last call type of thing once we're close. Yeah, we can commit to that. Where will the fall festival be located? It'll be located in Cottage Grove. Now, we have a question about a background check. Do you mind taking a peek? You're muted.
Yeah. So pending usually is what's reflected if you've submitted it fully. If you didn't receive the second email, but you received the first email, I would suggest looking in your junk or your spam. For that's usually what happens. Again, if you want to email me at dawn@tcslsoccer.com, I can take a look at your specific situation to see if we can figure out what might be going on.
Katie asked a question. I see my team under team management, Got Sport. When I click on team and look for team members, players not there, should we be able to see our team members? Is this something we add, or our administrator? Your administrator will add those. It means that they haven't added players yet to your roster, and they will, I'm sure, in due time. Got about 1 more minute in case anybody else has questions. Kelly asked a good question. Last year, we had a lot of refs that called offside and others that didn't. What is being called as offside at this age? The rules are that offside is in effect at U9 and U10. The practical reality is that this is going to get screwed up all the time because, generally speaking, our games at U9 and U10 have 1 referee. And generally speaking, that 1 referee is inexperienced. So what I would say is that's a good topic to cover in that pregame meeting. And then secondly, what I can commit to is that we're working with the state referee committee about developing some best practices for the next certification cycle in terms of officiating the U9 through U12 game. And this is the question you raise is is something that we're hoping for in terms of getting more consistency in the application of the rules at U9 and U10? Good question. But the by the book answer is that offside is in effect at U9 and U10. All right, look for the schedules tomorrow. We're excited for another. I'm now looking at more questions. Yeah, why not? Let's keep going. TCSL schedules the matches that occur between the various clubs, right? That is correct. You would address team issues with my club, but league issues such as scheduling with TCSL, correct? Yes, in general, that is correct. The meeting will be recorded, and when we send this out tomorrow, we'll include links. In case you want to rewatch it or share it with somebody, you're more than welcome to. Ginger, I have the wrong link for my club. How do I get the correct link for U12? I assume you're talking about this meeting, which U12 starts in 3 minutes. If you go to our website, tcslsoccer.com, and go down on the page a bit, and there's a link that says webinars have been scheduled. Go to that page, and you'll be shown the link for the 7 p.m. meeting. Okay, we're gonna wrap. Look for your meeting, or excuse me, look for your schedules tomorrow. We're here to serve you. Thank you so much for the time tonight, and have a great night, everybody.